um, it's kind of cool to hear their phone calls going, holy crap, these arrows are awesome. I'm like, I know, and it's the consistency I'm finding in them. The flexibility in the builds, I guess, is probably one of the things I'm most intrigued about. It doesn't matter if I want to run a 120 grain point, 150 grain point, 200 grain point, 250, ASA setups, indoor setups, whatever. I'm finding success with whatever I want to shoot. And that's something, that's a luxury I don't feel like I've always had, but a happy accident so far. It's been really awesome to test these and see that any type of build I want to build is working so far. But like I said, I've found really good consistency, and with consistency comes good results, and my practice has been awesome. And that builds confidence, and confidence is, it's the key to winning. I think so. But from the 23s to the 166s, I built the 246s for my hunting bow. I don't really have any limitations on my builds. I point weight, I can run what I want. Fletching size, I can run what I want. The arrows are spinning awesome on the spinners. I'm getting good builds. Even the limiteds. I mean, our premieres are a 0.001, 1,000 straightness. The limiteds are a 3,000 straightness. I've been spinning dozens of those, and we could put a premier label on those. And that's what I like. I mean, that's a less expensive arrow that maybe a guy, he may not see the difference between a 3,000th or a 1,000th. And I feel like that limited's an arrow that anybody could be competitive with too. So I think 2 thumbs up for that as well.
Yeah, I think, you and I could probably take any arrow and go through the trouble, whether components fit great or the arrow has a straighter part in one section than the other, and spend a week getting a dozen arrows to be perfect. But what I have found with the components, everything is so consistent from one batch to the next arrow to fit. It makes it so easy to build a great dozen arrows that you can have confidence in. And one of the things that I have refused to do and hate more than anything is having to build from scratch an arrow, like a bundle of arrows, and be frustrated for 6 days trying to get it right, and then try to tell a consumer to go buy that product. I feel like these arrows are going to be so easy for the customer, whether you have Darrin Christenberry knowledge level of arrow building, or you have pretty beginner do-it-yourself arrow building knowledge. I think you're going to be able to build a super, super consistent, solid dozen arrows with this system.
Yeah.
That I couldn't say in the past, because some components I'm having to use plastic, some of them I'm having to sand and glue them in. I mean, it's been, that can be a complete nightmare for a customer that doesn't have the knowledge of how to consistently build a good dozen arrows. So
Yeah. And I think one thing that I found that probably I guess skeptical is a good word to use. I was just like, how's this going to be? When we got shipments of shafts in, I got samples. When I tested these arrows, I got samples. I knew we had another purchase order coming in, another shipment of arrows coming in. I was like, I purposely want to get another dozen out of this new shipment, because we're weight matching everything. The dozen arrows that you buy, everything should be within 1 grain throughout that whole dozen of arrows. I thought, how's the next batch going to be? What's the next batch going to be? Are they going to weigh the same? Are they going to hit the same? So I took the whole new dozen and pulled a point out of my existing one, cleaned it, set my saw up. I took all the steps it took to build these new arrows exactly. I mean, as identical as I could get them to my original dozen. And by the time I was done, the new batch weighed within 1.3 grains of my original dozen. And as good as I can shoot, they hit the exact same holes, because I separate those by different colored nocks, because sometimes when you build arrows, they're different. And this was one of the boxes that I was happy to check, was like, okay, these are very consistent from batch to batch, from weight to weight, and impact. They've been really, really good so far. Really good.
Oh yeah. If anybody's ever had to go through the trouble of weighing inserts and outserts and nocks and shafts and vanes, and putting light ones with heavy ones and heavy ones with light ones, you understand how nice that is to have, consistent weights and fits between components and arrows from batch to batch. So
I'm a creature of habit. I like things to be the way they are. I want to know my routine, and you know, my archery equipment's the same way. So
Right.
change is not always easy for me, but right now I have a smile on my face every time I shoot my bow, and I'm happy with what I'm seeing.